Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are listening to this LinkedIn Live. My name is Naishat Gadani, and I'm the founder of Your Career Down Under. Me and Caroline have been doing this LinkedIn Live, what we call delivering a career care package to you in these unprecedented times that we find ourselves in. I'm right now in India, locked down until 14th of April, and then I have to figure out how do I get back to Australia, and then I'll be quarantined again for 2 more weeks. So it's a fascinating times. It's a time that I've been introspecting a lot. About what career, what future holds, and everything else, and I'm sure that everybody else does the same. So I'm welcoming my partner in crime, Caroline Brown, to this LinkedIn Live events. So Caroline, welcome, and you're still in Painesville because I can see the same window.
I know. I should actually try and sit in a paddock somewhere and go, here I am in rural Victoria, but haven't quite mastered it yet. So yes, I had the good fortune to be able to spend some time down here. And
Yeah,
it's actually really lovely to take a bit of a break as well as, be able to work from home. So yeah,
yeah.
it's all good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Now, today we are going to talk about a very different topic, a topic which has become quite popular in at least in last 2 3 years. We are going to talk about side hustle. I know it's a word, right? Side hustle. When I talk to my dad, he said, "What do you mean by side hustle?" Right?
Exactly.
He said, that's like you're running your small business apart from your work. That's what it means. You don't have to overcomplicate by saying it's a side hustle, right? But the millennials and everybody would like to find words which are more interesting, more exciting. So who do we speak to? So we have found the best person to talk about side hustle and creating a secondary income for yourself. So we are talking with Melinda Livingston, and she is the founder of the Income Connection. She's here to help you make more money, if that's the right word.
It's a big task,
Uh,
Melinda. We just set you up. So
right, that's right. But thanks a lot, Melinda, for joining us. So give us a little bit, background of your career story and how did you come to start, helping people make more money?
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Naishad and Carolyn. And I come from sunny Sydney. Um, yeah, so I've been a bit of a serial entrepreneur. So I've worked in corporates for a long time, helping them come up with business ideas and launch products and businesses. And I started Income Connection 3 years ago. And that's about helping people find extra income, start businesses. A lot of it's been in the sharing economy, but also helping people find income outside of the sharing economy as well as side hustles and also as businesses as well. A lot of people are wanting to take a portfolio approach to their income and start up side gigs or side hustles. And interestingly, in the United States, 85% of workers have a side hustle, and the trend
wow.
is starting on here in Australia as well. For millennials, a lot of it's to do with the FIRE movement, which is financial independence, retire early. So a lot of that is about accumulating wealth and paying down debt so that they can achieve financial independence earlier. But it's also about being entrepreneurial and finding interest outside of work as well. So it's about, if people have a role that they don't get as much fulfillment that they would like out of it, it's about being able to stretch their entrepreneurial legs outside of that 9 to 5 straitjacket too. So there's a lot of reasons why people are interested in a side hustle, and there's so many opportunities out there now. There's no better time than now to be an entrepreneur with a lot of really great technology that makes it really cheap and easy to get started, and a lot of support as well. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of reasons to start a side hustle.
Yeah. I'm interested, that trend in the States, you said, 85%. Why has it been growing? Because it's funny. I was talking to a girl that had gone onto the graduate program at Telstra, and she was in IT, and she said that it was a big thing. The thing that sort of they were looking for is that they had a side project, like a side hustle in a graduate, to get into a graduate role. But what's been the growth? Why has it become so popular?
Why has it been so popular? In the United States, a lot of it is because people are looking for more income. And also job insecurity. I think in Australia, it's because of employers are looking for entrepreneurial drive and spirit. Employers are looking for employees that are not just about doing the job, but bringing a lot of creativity and entrepreneurial capability into their workplace. So employers are looking for people who can bring in digital capability and new ideas. So I think if people have had a side hustle through university, then that shows that they think outside the square, and that's a really great capability. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's are you seeing, because I think, one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you today is that I guess people are, feeling insecure and probably looking at ways that they can bolster their income and that sort of thing. But what are people doing as side hustles? What have you seen any sort of trends in what's popular and what's working?
A lot of the side hustles are in the sharing economy. So, people that have spare rooms and, spare time to set up side hustles, and they can do that through the sharing economy. So there's 150 platforms out there, and a lot of people aren't aware of the choice that's available. So the sharing economy enables them to really monetize their spare time and their skills in a really easy way and get started. A lot of it is obviously selling on Amazon, coming up with product ideas and selling those on Amazon. And then there's also, if people have a technology idea, selling a sort of a technology capability on a platform like Invanto as well. So there's a really kind of broad range. And then there's also the creativity space. So people that find that their work is a little bit kind of dull, and they want to do something that's a bit creative. They will do something that's kind of in the creative space, in sort of to do with, say, art, kind of homemade goods, even kind of jewelry making or music, even like making their own guitar, stuff that is, maybe a pursuit that they had when they were younger, that they want to pursue in their own time. And it may not be especially kind of lucrative, but they see it as an opportunity to really kind of pursue a personal passion. And we know that when we pursue a passion and we're enthusiastic about it, that is a really great way for us to achieve success, because our passion is infectious. So there's a whole range of opportunities out there.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Because what I remember is watching some Shark Tank episodes, especially the American ones. There are a lot of people started something, doing on the weekends and weekdays, and then they eventually took it to the to the full time. So I think that the popular culture or the acceptance of a side hustle, or you doing something on the sides is kind of validated through this Shark Tank and through other entrepreneur pitch nights and everything else, that I see that the acceptance is also widely there amongst the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I think often it's like solving your own problem. So it's like, if you have a problem in your own life and you're frustrated that nobody has, you think, this is a real irritation for me. I really wish that this would be solved. And it can be, my child has this particular allergy, or, I can't get food in this particular way, like a snack bar. that when I go hiking, I want a nut-free snack bar, or, I want this problem that's solved for me. And so, this is really irritating. They do market research and they find that other people have the same problem. And then they kind of solve that problem. It might be making the nut-free snack bar, and they realise that, they're through testing and learning that, they can make a really good tasting nut-free snack bar, and then they make enough quantity of them and test it, and they find that, oh wow, there's a market for this, and then they grow that out, and then they can have some success. So solving a problem, for you, and then you find that there's other people in the same category, and then that's often a really great way to have a side gig, and it just can be something that's really very small, and often that's the best way to start, is to start really small, with a very small problem that you have really intimate knowledge of, or somebody that amongst your friends or family have really intimate knowledge of, and just grow it out from there.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's because I think a lot of people love the idea of having their own business. It might be frustration out of work and things like that, but have no idea on how to start or what to do. So how do you help people like that? How do you get an idea? What's your, because that's what part of what you do in your business, isn't it? You help people come up with that kind of brainstorm or strategy, or so if you came from a complete I want to do something else, or I need to make more money, or I'm frustrated in my career, or what's a good place to start with an idea, and work out whether that's viable or not?
Yeah. So I have people come to me and I ask them a range of questions. So one of them is really, how much spare time do they have if it is a side gig? Because if they don't have spare time, then it's really difficult for them to develop a side gig. And what is the nature of that spare time? Is it nights? Is it weekends? And really to get a sense of how much, what's the operating framework for them. And then sort of, thinking about, are they entrepreneurial? Are they wanting to come up with a new idea and sort of go down that route? Or are they really just wanting to earn extra money? And if they're wanting to earn extra money, then there's a lot of options for them. So in the sharing economy, so like, sort of spare rooms, spare space, assets that they can monetize, spare time that they can monetize, taking on extra work in their field, in their day job, or like freelancer or something like that. So so are they entrepreneurial? Do they want to come up with a new idea, or are they just really looking to monetize spare time and their assets? So that's kind of the two options there. If they're entrepreneurial and they want to come up with a new idea, then it's really thinking around kind of the generation of that idea. So there's this concept of Japanese thinking called ikigai, which is around finding your purpose, and it sounds like you're familiar with that. So that's a really good framework, because it really needs to be something that you're really passionate about. Because if you're giving up your weekend and your night and hanging out with your friends and family, it really needs to be kind of aligned with your passion. So that's a really good framework for thinking about that. So in that ikigai framework, I've just got it here. So the people, it's really a good place to Google and have a look at that. So it's really looking at, what you love, your passion, your mission, but also what the world needs. So are you solving a problem for somebody? You need to be solving a problem for somebody. If you're familiar with the problem, that's a really good place to start. But it's also what you can be paid for as well, because again, you're giving up your weekend, you want to be paid for it too. So that's a really good framework. Doing a mind map is also a really good framework that I use with my clients, and kind of drawing all of that out. And then from there, you should be starting to think about then, like, who is my target market? Who are the people that I have a really good understanding of, and then their needs and the sort of problem space for them. And if every day you spend about 30 minutes thinking about who are the people that you know really well and the sorts of problems that they face, and just think, okay, I'm just going to think about them and I'm going to write ideas in a Post-it note, and I'm just going to put them on a wall, or I put them when I was starting my business on the inside of a cupboard door, just so I wasn't having a cluttered house. So I would just open the door and put them there and then close the door. And and then every so often I'd look at them. And so every day you're kind of building it up. And so I'd have just really, really crazy ideas. But again, it's over time you're building up those ideas. And then over time you're thinking, okay, well, some of these ideas, you know, they're going to be good ideas. You know, where is the economy going? Where are the growth opportunities? What industries and what market segments are going to be growing? And really kind of try to drill down on those. And where are my competencies? Where am I actually going to be a really good fit for serving those markets? And really starting to kind of develop that out. And given it's a side gig, you're not going to necessarily kind of solve this, you know, in one weekend of intense thinking. It's going to be a ruminating process over time. And then once you're starting to develop this out, you're probably going to want to start talking to some people. So there's this really good framework called design thinking, which I used when I was starting my business, which is around kind of blue sky. It's prototyping. You come up with an idea, you prototype it, and it could be sticky tape and pins and bits of paper and cardboard and hand drawing, and you're putting it in front of people. And so you're sort of saying, okay, well, you know, does this solve your problem? And then people interact with it and they say yes or no, and you can iterate in that way.
I've heard that great saying about, you know, iterate your way to awesome. So, you know, one of the things I find is, like, I guess just using my own experience about developing a product, which is sort of, you know, what you're talking about, is that one of the things that got in the way for me was I expected awesome results first time, and if I didn't get awesome results, then I just gave it up and thought it was a failure. Do you, like, what are some of the things that get in, because we have hundreds of great ideas, and but what are some of the things that get in the way of people actually doing it, like that you see, you know, some of the mistakes that people make with developing a side hustle?
I think that's a really good one about failure. I think, you know, we need to be prepared to test and learn and fail, because we're not necessarily going to get it right the first time. So we try 20 times and 18 times we'll fail. I think that's a really good rule of thumb to know. So
is that actually sort of statistically
that's the design thinking method, like that's the design thinking framework, that you fail 18 times. So just fail fast and cheap. Absolutely. I think also with a side hustle is just talking to your boss about it and making sure that your employer is comfortable kind of with it. So you were talking, Carolyn, earlier before about Telstra as a recruiter being really looking for side hustles, and that's a sign of a really progressive, forward-thinking employer. But not every employer is going to be in that space, and so it's just having that conversation early, and getting them on board with it, because a lot of the time they will be excited, but if there's conflicts, you may want to have that conversation.
It's funny, with my first side hustle, it was actually freelance writing, and I neglected to tell my employer about it. Just didn't occur to me at the time. And then I got a message back that's, you know, really don't want our employees to be, you know, having published articles and things like that. And at that time I was sort of transitioning out, so I didn't sort of worry too much about it. But yeah, it never occurred to me that it would be a clash. But I mean, Naish, you've got a story around that with your business, in terms, because you're doing, you know, your career coaching and career business alongside your full-time gig as well. So
yes, it is, and it has always been a very fine line for me to walk into. I remember when I first started my career as an employment consultant, I think 6 months down the line, I was pulled up by my manager, and she was concerned whether I am doing any professional resume writing work with the clients who I'm supposed to see and provide free advice to them. And then, I said that's a legitimate concern. I'm not even saying that that should not be a concern. Having said that, I have never ever talked to anyone to, about what I do in my personal life, and you can always count on me for doing that. And then subsequently, wherever I put my applications through, it always says that I have been running my private career practice. I've never hidden that fact at all, because if they Google my name, or if they go on LinkedIn, they will immediately find out about
Mm.
that. So I've never hidden that. Having said that, I have consistently worked in the same industry, but with a view that can never be conflict in terms of services that I offer. So, my previous role was around helping people with injuries to return to work. So there is never a conflict with the work that I do in this one. Even my current role, there is not at all conflict with the work that I do, because it's project management of employment programs, and the work that I do is distinct, absolutely distinct. But I do understand that, that conflict part, and I try to be as much clearer of those lines as possible. But I'm sure that, Melinda, in your experience, people, some, because if you're deeply involved into a particular vocation, after a while, that's what you think. That's the problem, that you kind of, see the whole world through that prism, and that's what you naturally gravitate towards. But if I can give an example of a client that I worked with, and then I want to sort of, talk more about how do you really manage that conflict. One of my clients is an IT change specialist, and we are working on his personal brand, and then he said they should have just, signed up for an Amazon, education program, where I'll be, finding out products. I'll be selling products on Amazon. It's a 6-12 months of education and training and everything. I was absolutely blown away. I said, you're going to sell this, and he said, "It's you have no idea how much the growth of those businesses on Amazon." And then he told me about the whole thing. So he spends his weekends, learning about Amazon, and learning about, putting his time and effort into a completely different field than what he does right now. So, Marinda, if I can sort of, coming back to you, how do people manage that conflict? And, if there are any stories there of your clients that you have seen effectively managing and not effectively managing such conflicts.
Um, well, I think if they're doing their work, it's not necessarily a conflict if they're performing well in their job. And if in some ways, if they do have something outside of work that is giving them purpose and meaning, they can actually perform better in their job. I mean, I think if an employee turns up to work and they feel that a lack of purpose in their life and lack of direction in their life, they can do worse in their job. Whereas if they feel, I have a really well-balanced life, I've got my job and I do my job, but I have purpose and meaning and something to enjoy on the weekend. And when I go home, then actually that can help them in their job. And so, yeah, it can actually be helpful. I think possibly the challenge is, say, with their LinkedIn profile. Like if they are doing a side gig that it's helpful for them to put it on their LinkedIn profile, and yet they actually have a career job that they want on their LinkedIn profile. How do they balance those two? Then that's a real challenge. And I think in that situation, if somebody listening is kind of trying to work through that, having a look at somebody in their industry as a role model to reference how to kind of work that through. But I think, it generally can be done if you've got a progressive employer. Obviously, it depends on the employer as to kind of how they react to that, because I know a lot of employers are really keen to improve the digital capability of their business, and an employee who is out there learning how to do things better online, learning how to improve their online advertising, their digital footprint, who's doing content marketing, who is out there learning the latest things in marketing, and also new trends that are hitting their industry. I think that person is going to be really valuable.
I think it's funny. A couple of years ago, I was working from a co-working space called The Hub in Melbourne, and I know there's one in Sydney as well. And quite often they'd have tours, and employers would be coming through the Hub with their teams, because they wanted members of their teams to sit amongst that sort of entrepreneurial, freelancey, small, business startup type space for those ideas as well, and those collaborations. So I think there's more. There is a lot of benefit for organisations for those things that you said. It's like the creativity that comes from, exploring the digital, getting up to speed with all of the time-saving productivity digital tools, thinking like an entrepreneur, bringing fresh ideas back into the business, and that type of thing. I think some businesses get threatened, and I think thinking back to my time, I think that was probably threatening for the business that I was in, just because they wanted you to go and do that job and that job only, and represent that brand in some sort of sense in your private life as well. So yeah, but also I just wanted to pick you up from something that you said around, say on your LinkedIn profile, you've got your professional identity that might be the company you're working for, and also the side gig identity, and you might be wanting to expand that out. There are great ways to draw common threads often between the two of them. So the interest that you have in your job might be very similar to the interest that's driving what you're doing, and there's benefits from what you learn from a company that drive what you might be delivering, say service-wise in your side gig as well. So people do, I think, manage to combine the two of them successfully if there is some commonality, I think. So yeah, but so it's interesting. How did you get started in your business? How did that all come about?
That's a really good question, Carolyn. I left my job in investments, and I had some time off, and I was really thinking I wanted to do something new and different, and so I spent some time thinking about what I might do. So I thought about something with a social purpose, and I just started that Post-it note on the back of the cupboard door, really thinking about what I was going to do. Yeah, and some of the ideas were like completely crazy, like really out there. I had something to do with mosquitoes. Like I don't know. Like I look at it now, like really weird, out there kind of stuff. And I thought about. So I did a master's thesis on the future of superannuation, and included a big piece on the future, some of the big macro trends, and that included the sharing economy, the gig economy, and flexible work. And I thought, okay, that's a really interesting space that's growing. I looked at the aging population, looked at need for people to save more. And so I started Income Connection as kind of bringing together all of those trends. That was at the end of 2017, and really with a kind of big focus on helping people find extra income, extra sources of income. That was the big focus for me. And that business has been running for 2 years, and I absolutely love it. I love sitting down with people face to face and helping them, but not necessarily face to face, also over Zoom.
You must mention that now.
As well.
Yeah. So with your client base, has it been all, like, because we sort of spoke about millennials and the term side hustle because it's a great way to capture the spirit of it, but is it are you seeing a lot of people at all ages and all sort of backgrounds looking to set something up?
Increasingly, younger people as well, particularly in more recent times, looking for a side hustle. So there's a range of reasons why people want a side hustle. It's to have less dependence on their employer. It's to save for the future. It's to pay down debt. It's to shore themselves up financially. It's to pursue a passion or an interest that they've long had. It's that creative pursuit. There's a whole range of interests, a range of reasons why people want a side hustle, and I help people, for all of those reasons. I mean, sometimes it's because they want to do something, a business with a family member. That's also been another reason I've seen. They want to do something together. It's not just a solo pursuit. Yeah.
Wow. And does it cost a lot? Like, is there sort of a minimum budget that you need to get started, or is that like a how long is a piece of string type question?
Could you just repeat the question?
Yeah. So if you were wanting to start a side hustle, is there a sort of a minimum amount of money you'd need to get started, or does that depend on like the side hustle that you're thinking about?
Money? No, I think like it's really cheap and easy to get started on a side hustle, because of the technology. Like, there's so much cheap and free technology out there. Like, this is just the best time to get started. So like, I use a Squarespace website, and you can get started with that for $16 a month. Yeah. You can get a domain from GoDaddy for $13 per annum. It's just so cheap and easy to get started. And the good thing about it being a side hustle is that you're still at work, so you still got that income from your employer. So it's a really low risk way to start a business. Yeah. Look, so much of the software that I use is cheap or free. So Calendly, I use their basic version for free. And MailChimp as well has a free version that you can get started with. So MailChimp is the email service. So, yeah, it's just amazing what you can get started with. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about, sorry, Nashad, I keep throwing questions at Melinda, so feel free to jump in. I just wanted to... So what do you, I mean, given, we're in very strange times and we're not able to go far from our houses, what are you seeing that people might start during this time? Like, if people are thinking about now's the time, I've got to get started on something, do you have any sort of, have you seen what people are doing, or any sort of ideas that, people could pursue?
Yeah. There's a lot of great opportunities. So if you think that some of the familiar businesses that we know today started in the last financial crisis, the global financial crisis of 2008 to 2010, so Airbnb and Slack and Square and WhatsApp, they all started in the last financial crisis. So this is a really great time for us to be thinking about what businesses could be started at this time. So I have listed 10 areas where people might be thinking there could be some really great opportunities. So I'll just run through them for you. So the first area of opportunity is the whole pet space. So spending on pets was already a mega opportunity before this particular downturn, but even more so now, in that people are spending more time with their pets and just falling in love with their pets all over. Pets, we're thinking of things like pet playgrounds, pet treats, pet clothing, pet technology, pet dating apps. So I will only date somebody who has a pet.
Did you say pet dating?
And I'm serious. Yeah, there are pet dating apps. I will only date somebody who has a pet. Like, has a dog.
Dating each other. Sorry.
Yeah. So if I date somebody, it's only somebody who likes my dog or has a dog. Yeah. So it's absolutely huge. The whole pet tech, the health and well-being of my pet tech for my pet. It's huge. So last week, credit card expenditure in the United States was up 6% year on year in the pet space, right?
Okay.
If you think of the economic downturn in the United States, it was up 6% on pets.
Wow.
So more dogs in Australia than there are teenagers. So pets is a mega trend, has been a mega trend. It'll just continue to be. And this downturn, this like economic downturn with coronavirus is just going to accentuate that. People have been getting pets to offset their loneliness. So that's the first trend. The second trend, as you know, is technology and people buying things online. So people who used to not buy things online because they preferred to go to the shops have been forced to buy things online. So that has been a massive behaviour shift. We know that screen time is up. And so if you are going to, test your idea with some Facebook advertising or with a Facebook group or with a Facebook page, do it now because people's eyeballs are all online. And we know that jobs in this space went up 17.3% on job advertising on Link the last few weeks.
Wow.
And, there's a lot of investment by companies in the whole IT value chain. So everybody is being forced to adapt. So the whole kind of IT space is absolutely huge. So that's a big opportunity. Then there's local tourism. So we know after 9/11, and I think this is a similar kind of event to 9/11. I mean, nobody is going to go on a cruise ship again. I mean, really, who is going to get on a cruise ship? People are going to be having local tourism experiences, just like they did after 9/11. We saw the local economy really soar, but it has to be really good local experiences. So anybody that wants to have a local tourism experience, which is exciting, which is an adventure, I think they're going to do really well. It has to be fun, has to be social media worthy, has to be, really exciting. Things like, like a house party weekend with a, Tarantino movie theme, something that's going to be something that gets people excited. They're going to do really well. Fun local tourist events. And then there's also, same as for restaurants, or I don't even know if you call them restaurants, but dining experiences. So restaurants were already on the decline before the coronavirus because of Uber Eats. People weren't going to restaurants. But I think people will be interested in exciting dining experiences, but it's not going to be about the food because with coronavirus, we have all learnt to cook, right? We all know how to cook, right?
Yes.
So that's not going to be about the food, but people will want to go out again, and they will want to have fun.
Well. Sorry,
I think what's happened is that people have been going to their supermarket, and that's why the stores have been like the shelves have been emptied, right? People have been buying food and they have been cooking. We know in the United States there is a chronic shortage of eggs. The reason for that is that people are baking cakes.
Okay.
So, and I think that, they're baking cakes. They have never baked cakes before. And so in the United States, they are running out of eggs. They're going to have to increase their chicken populations to lay more eggs so that people can continue baking these cakes. So we have a similar situation. People are buying self-raising flour and regular flour, and they're baking. They're buying sugar, right? We know that. So when people do go out to restaurants again, it's not going to be necessarily because they can't cook. It's going to be because they want to go out for a good time. So there's going to be a big opportunity for savvy entrepreneurs who are listening to us now, who are going to be thinking, I'm going to create these amazing experiences, but it's going to be more than the food. It's going to be things like eating blindfolded and guessing what the food is. It's going to be social. It's going to be stuff I can add to my social media capital because I can put it on my Facebook or on my Insta. It's going to be maybe, extreme food tourism. It's going to be so exciting, and that's where the opportunity is going to be in the restaurant space. Yeah. Another big trend is going to be financial recovery. So if you think of how much capital has been wiped off our share markets, and how much people's whose retirement savings has just like dropped, there's a massive opportunity there. So the financial planning industry was already in a difficult position going into this. So people that can come up with really clever solutions to help people recover their finances, whether it's, apps or, whatever that might be, whatever that might look at, programs, whatever that could look like, that is a massive, massive opportunity that's really going to engage people of all stages of life. I mean, because everybody has kind of gone financially backwards over this. So huge, huge opportunity there. The next trend opportunity is home decor. So people are at home and they are looking at their walls, they're looking at their furniture, and they are really bored, right? They're looking at it and they're going, I'm really bored with this. So stuff that's in the home decor space is going to be really good. So ways that they can interact possibly digitally would be really good. So there's American sites like Decorist, Home Polish, Havenly, and Laurel and Wolf, which are remote home kind of home decor advice services. Nobody in Australia is doing anything like that. But that should give some people who are listening some really good ideas as to how they can kind of engage with people and help them kind of really freshen up their homes. And then kind of coming out of this economic downturn, people are going to be interested in spending as well, because they will be wanting to change up their homes. The next one is children's education and entertainment. I think people have connected with their children over this time, and they, yes, there's some opportunities now because they will kind of be wanting to keep their kids entertained. I mean, there's also children's craft as well now, and children's games, kind of online and also physical product. But I think kind of coming out of this, I don't think they're all of a sudden going to turn their backs on their kids and go, okay, well, I've no more. I think they're still going to want to have some products and services that kind of continue this trajectory of engaging with their children and family time. So I think that's also an opportunity. And then there's also digital education. That's a space because people are now locked into enjoying that digital education space. I think that delivery of education in that way will continue. So that's an opportunity. Selling services in narrow marketplaces. So the services space in terms of marketplaces hasn't really kind of evolved in the same way that products have. So disaggregating a lot of the marketplaces like Fiverr, I think would be a really good opportunity for somebody. So there's a lot of services on Fiverr, but there's a lot of risk for people that use that platform. So disaggregating that that would de-risk it.
Actually, seeing something that's offered on Fiverr and doing that yourself, or putting something on Fiverr there.
So you could create a marketplace for one of the verticals on Fiverr.
Gotcha.
Or you could and use a marketplace platform like ShareTribe to set up that. So ShareTribe is $79 a month. You could create a marketplace vertical for ShareTribe, for one of the services on Fiverr. That could be one idea, or you could even just offer one of those services and just kind of de-risk the delivery of that by just really simplifying it and productizing it. That's one idea there.
Wow. Okay.
And the same thing is there's another platform called Invanto. It's a really, really big marketplace, and doing the same thing there, I think would be a really good opportunity for somebody. And also as a side gig, you could actually, by scaling it down just to kind of one product or service, it kind of makes it a lot more deliverable as a side gig as well.
Yeah. Wow, you've come up with so many things that I'm just in awe of like the broadness, but also the depth of your thinking as well. So, yeah, absolutely amazing. I realize just how narrow my scope and thinking is as well. So, just from people interacting, but also coming out of this, because I guess, from my perspective, I've been thinking, a month or two, but there's probably the acceleration of some long-term trends that we've already seen, and some of the things that people maybe have found really important to them, like pets and decor and experiences and local and all sorts of things like that. It's just fantastic insight that you've given.
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure that Caroline's cat will feature on one of the...
Sorry, I've been writing. Sorry, what did you say, Nate?
Caroline's cat will feature in one of our LinkedIn Live very shortly. But no, I think I've just started to receive some exciting messages from people about how thankful they are with some of the things, because I think the information on the trends which really transpires, or which really helps people, oh wow, so I can think about those things, and that's the kind of that thing that motivates people around this time. So Melinda, you've been absolutely sensational around really sharing very generously about how to create a side hustle. So for listeners, if you want to go and find out, you can always go and find out Melinda Livingston, but she runs a company called incomeconnection.com.au, is it?
Just .com, so incomeconnection.com.
You got the
Absolutely.
.com? Yeah.
So
fantastic.
go ahead, and she's already got a lot of resources on her website that I'm pretty sure that you will find very useful. And this time, when you are bit uncertain, not sure what to do, I think she brings a really ray of hope for many of us. So Melinda, once again, thank you very much for the time and the knowledge that you shared with us, and we wish you really well.
Yeah, and thank you for the optimism as well, because I know that there's a fly buzzing around my head here, but I know that this is like a time that people have sort of, the anxiety means that you can't think creatively, and I think what you've given people is some optimism and some ideas, and it's been fantastic that you could share that. So I just reiterate what Nation said around, go and have a look at your website and get inspired and reach out to Melinda, everyone, because
absolutely,
fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
We'll see you again, I'm sure. So bye.